What should you do and how should you handle it if you receive a cease and desist letter? That's coming up in this video. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here and we don't know each other, my name's Kerry, and I created this channel to bring you the best strategies, secrets, and hacks to grow your online t-shirt, apparel, or print-on-demand store. In today's video, I'm going to give you my advice on what you should do if you were to receive a cease and desist letter in your Shopify store. Okay, the first thing you should do if you get a cease and desist letter, you want to panic, cry, crawl up in a little ball, shut down your entire store.
Your life is over.
All joking aside, getting a cease and desist letter can be really scary and it freaks a lot of people out. And so I want to talk you through what you should do if this were to happen to you. And in fact, it's happened to me a couple of times. I've actually got a few cease and desist letters over the years in my t-shirt and apparel stores, and I've learned a lot through that. I do want to let you know that I am not a lawyer. This is not professional or legal advice, and you absolutely should seek a lawyer if you're in this situation. But I want to give you kind of what steps you should go through and how you should think about a cease and desist letter. And I just want to tell you what I've experienced so that you can better handle it, and especially for your mindset. I want you to get the right mindset around this because it's actually a lot more common than you think. It's not this thing that doesn't happen. It actually happens a lot to a lot of companies and a lot of people. And it doesn't always mean that you've done something really bad. So I want to make sure that you understand how to think about it and how to handle it in the best way possible. Let's talk about a few reasons why you might get a cease and desist letter. Number one, you're just copying, and you shouldn't copy, right? You shouldn't copy other people's stuff because that's the easiest way that will lead you to a cease and desist letter and a lot of problems. So I always advise against copying other people's designs or products or logos, any of that kind of stuff. Do not copy. So that's the first reason you might get a cease and desist letter. Number two, you might just be unaware that what you've put out is trademarked. This actually happens to a lot of people. And in fact, I talk to a lot of students who have put out things and then realize later on that they might be similar to something that's already out there. The reality is there's a bazillion companies in the world, a bazillion different t-shirts and designs and products. And sometimes we're just unaware that what we've created, something similar has been created out in the world. And number three, you might have just thought that you changed your design enough from something that is trademarked so that you could maybe get away with it or get around it. And this is another reason a lot of people use inspiration from popular things. And in some cases, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But this can be a reason for getting a cease and desist letter if you see a popular design or you're playing off something that's trending and you alter that some and you think maybe you're far enough away. There is some gray area here in the law. And so these are the three reasons why you might get a cease and desist letter. So those three reasons were from your end of things, but let's talk about the company that's sending the cease and desist letter. What would make them send you a cease and desist letter? And what I see is there's really two scenarios. The first reason is that you're just using something that they have trademarked. This could be their logo, their company name, a character from a movie or a show. It could be a slogan. There are a number of things. For example, if you put out a Disney shirt with Mickey Mouse on it, that is trademarked. If you put out a Star Wars shirt, that is trademarked. So this would be reason number one, is you're just blatantly putting out something that is trademarked and the company sees that you're using their intellectual property and they want you to stop. And so the first step is they send you that cease and desist letter. The second scenario why a company might send you a C&D is if they think that the customers might confuse your company with their company. Let's take a movie quote, for instance. If you were to take a movie quote from a Disney movie and put it on a t-shirt, is that trademarked? This is really kind of gets into a gray area. But why like Disney may send you a C&D on that is if they think that the customer will think that it's a Disney shirt because it has a Disney movie quote on it. Now, that specific quote likely isn't trademarked unless you talk about something like "May the Force be with you," right? That's probably trademarked by Disney. But if you're using a movie quote or let's say a song lyric, and the customer could likely confuse your company for the company that initially put out that song or put out that movie, that could be a reason for a cease and desist letter. And by the way, this is my favorite thing in the world to talk about. I just want you guys to know, like I really, really love talking about this stuff. So just to recap that really quickly, you're either using something that is trademarked, a trademarked element, or you could be possibly causing confusion in the market and imitating another company. Hey, if you're enjoying this video, would you hit that like button and also make sure you subscribe to the channel? We put out new videos like this about t-shirts, print on demand, Shopify, online business every single Tuesday, and that'll make sure you don't miss out on any of the new content coming out. And also leave me a comment. Have you got a cease and desist letter? How did you handle it? And what do you think about this scary topic? Okay, we've got out of the way all the reasons why you might get a cease and desist. Let's talk about what you should do if you get one. Number one, do not panic. It is so easy to panic when you see this. You are not being sued if you get a cease and desist letter. That does not mean a company is suing you. That simply means they are asking you to take down the products that could be in violation of their trademarks, or you could be imitating their company, okay? So don't panic. This does not mean anything because you may very likely not have violated anything. There are some instances where you may be using elements that are not trademarked, but because you're making some noise in the market and making some sales, that could cause a company that doesn't own a trademark to try to send you a cease and desist just because they might be competing with you. There are scenarios where you're not in violation of anything. So understand, number one, that if you get a cease and desist, number one, you are not being sued. And number two, you should not panic. There are steps that you can take to go about this, so don't panic. And it's also important to know that if you get a cease and desist letter, it should always come from a lawyer. If it comes from a company, if you get let's say an Instagram DM from a company that says something, they can't take you to court on an Instagram DM. They can't sue you or have any legal action on a DM or a Facebook message. So a actual cease and desist will come from a lawyer, and it will either come in the mail or sometimes by email. I've received cease and desist by email a few times. And so you want to make sure that it's actually coming from a lawyer, because honestly, it really doesn't mean anything if a company's just reaching out saying you're copying me or you're using this or that. They might just be mad that you're making sales and they're not. So first, don't panic. Number two, assess the situation. Did you do something wrong? If you did, if you blatantly copied something, if you blatantly used a trademarked element, or maybe you didn't even check the US trademark website before you made the design or put up the product, you're probably in the wrong. So you need to assess the situation. Now, if it's a gray area, if you really didn't copy something or you weren't aware of it, you might have reason to fight that cease and desist. Number three, if you did do something wrong and you know you did something wrong, just remove the products and move on. Okay, if you're in direct violation of a trademark, you used a trademarked character or logo, you should just remove the products and move on. In this world that we live in, a lot of people just want to make a quick buck off of somebody else's work, and that's the reality. And I don't think you're a bad person if you did that, but I do think that if you made a mistake and if you did something blatantly just to make a quick buck, and you should not try to fight it. You should just remove the products, have integrity, and move on about your entrepreneurial journey. Number four, if you decide you want to fight it, you can, but do not do it alone. You will say the wrong thing and you will put yourself in a worse situation. If you want to fight it, you need to get a trademark and patent lawyer. You can use one locally. You can search the internet. You can find a trademark and patent lawyer, and you're going to want to get a lawyer and find out what they think about whether you are in violation of these trademarks or copyrights, and they can help you go about fighting it. And they will be able to negotiate with the lawyer from the company that's sending you the cease and desist and try to come up with some kind of solution. But do not do it alone. Everything you say can be legally used against you, so don't act on emotion. You need to get a lawyer because they will be able to properly go about handling it. In some situations, when these kind of issues fall in that gray area and maybe you're making some significant sales, it might be worth it to fight it. It actually might be worth it to get a lawyer and fight that cease and desist letter if you believe that you're doing the right thing and you're acting with integrity and you're not copying somebody else's stuff. You might have reason to fight it. So I encourage you to fight it if you are making a considerable amount of money and you're doing the right thing and you're having integrity, because you can, in a lot of instances, come out, continuing to sell the products, or at least coming up with some kind of negotiation that works for both parties. As an added tip, sometimes it's possible to acquire licensing or split the profits with the company and negotiate that from your lawyer to their lawyer. Now, this is not the ideal situation to try to acquire licenses. And if you're dealing with the NBA or the NFL or a big company like Disney or Apple, this is not the time to try to get licensing, and it's likely going to be not possible for you to get licensing on something like that at this moment. But depending on the company, if they're not the biggest company, if they're not these Disneys and Apples of the world, you may be able to talk about licensing and how you could acquire licensing to actually use their intellectual property, or a way that you could split the profits with them to make it work for both parties. I hope you've enjoyed this video today, and the biggest thing I want you to take from it is that cease and desist letters are a lot more common than you think, and so many companies receive these cease and desist letters at one time or another, and you should not panic, and you should understand that does not mean you are in violation of anything necessarily, and that you should go about the legal process to fight it if you have reason to fight it, or you should abide by it if you know that you're in violation of something. If you're currently running an online t-shirt business and you want to learn how to grow your sales and profits, or you want to get started and learn how to set up and launch an online t-shirt business, I want to invite you to head over to shirtschool.com and take a look at our free 60-minute masterclass that is going to teach you the Shirt School system for selling t-shirts on the internet and how to maximize those sales, grow those sales, and increase your profits. So I want to invite you to go watch that. It's completely free. Just put in your email. You can watch it on demand right there. And we'd love for you to become a part of the Shirt School family, and we'll see you next week.